Welcome to a series of podcasts discussing series of films.
I'm Matt.
I'm Dave.
In a world inundated with prequels, sequels, spin-offs, and reboots, we ask the question,
Do we need one more? I think we do.
I think we don't.
So I've had a thought about Jason Statham
Okay.
that I need to share with you.
Okay.
And that is that I think he is the closest to a real life Ken doll / G.I. Joe that we're going to get, because every movie he does is about his profession. Like he's like, I'm on the beach. I'm a lifeguard. I'm an aquatic man. This most recent one, he's like, I'm a construction worker.
That's true.
And then last year he was like, I'm a beekeeper.
It's the beekeeper.
And so it's like, what is his profession? Like, I'm waiting for firefighter. I think should be the next one, where he's like, I'm just a firefighter, but I'm also an ex-Navy SEAL and I kick ass.
I am 100% behind. I saw someone, I don't know if you've seen it. I can't name the name of the comedian, so apologies. But he is talking to Statham and he says that he wants him to play a librarian.
Yes,
And
that
he's
was
like,
actually where I had the thought. I saw that exact
yeah,
clip
they're
and I
like,
was like, oh my God, he's like,
you gotta keep
he's
it
like,
down.
he's
all
like
that.
Ken. It's like this movie is like the box where he gets the outfit where he's got a hard hat and a hammer, and then like
It's also the idea of, now you said him as Ken, and I'm just imagining the physicality of Keaton's Ken in Toy Story 3.
yeah,
But it's Statham like backflipping.
he's like, now I'm an astronaut. I work for NASA.
It's it's the Barbie, like really, it's like clearly plastic, and
Yeah.
he's like gravity just
He's like-
going through.
He's like, I'm Disco Ken. Karate chop someone in the neck.
I mean, look, there is a case to, I would love to see like a Saturday Night Fever legacy sequel.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Old Travolta and Statham, just two
Yeah.
bald guys, just
tearing it up.
Yeah. Oh God, this is a good.
Yeah.
Thank you for saving that.
Yeah, no, I've
tell
been
me this
sitting on
on
that
air.
for I think a week and a half now, because I was like, I have to share this because it's burning a hole in my brain.
It's like the 22 Jump Street credits, where it's like
Yeah.
it's just him in
no,
different
it is.
things.
It's like he hasn't done med school yet, but like we need like med school and like a firefighter, and he's done cop a bunch, so like
Yeah.
we're good there. But like, you know, like it's just like he's like the closest to that you're gonna get, I think.
I would agree. He is kind of our current, like, everyone's trying to be Arnold, and we'll get into Spider-Man 3 in just one sec. Don't you worry, listeners. But he is kind of our Arnold, where it's like he's every movie he's like, it's Statham as this, whereas I feel like everyone's trying to do
Yeah.
Arnold's movies where it's Statham
and
is
then
just
he's like, this is jet ski harpoon edition.
yeah, it's like Arnold fighting a big shark. Like did that
Yeah.
happen? That probably happened, but I can't remember.
I think it could still happen.
He's gonna play Santa.
Oh yeah, we're getting
It's
a
him
Santa.
and Alan Richardson.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
It's called The Man with the Bag, which is kind of a sick title.
That's a pretty sick title.
Yeah.
They could have done Red too, but there weren't.
Maybe one day, man.
Maybe one day.
I can't wait for the Red one and Red Notice crossover.
Yes,
Because Red Notice got,
it's called Blue Moon.
8.7 billion views apparently on Netflix.
Is it Blue Moon, Blue Harvest? What do we?
The Star Wars one is Blue Harvest.
Blue Harvest.
Blue Moon will just probably make an appearance.
Yeah.
Someone will purchase Blue Moon,
Yeah,
and then it'll be right next
They'll
to
set it right next to the
Terramana,
Terramana
and Aviation,
and Aviation. Yeah,
all the other ones.
and they'll put down George Clooney's as well.
That's true.
Does he still own that?
Casamigos.
Casamigos.
I think he does.
because I thought maybe he sold that. There was a year where he was the highest paid
Yes.
actor, or he was like second highest paid. It was like him and The Rock were like 1 and 2. And it was like George Clooney like flexed even harder though, because he was the highest paid actor, but did not make a movie
Yeah,
the year
it's-
of that list.
Just from his tequila business. Hey, good on it, man. And it's good too. I like Casamigos. I'm not a huge tequila person, but I
I've
do
had
like it.
Casamigos once, and it was delicious.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm not a huge tequila guy, but that had me.
Yeah. Welcome
So-
to our alcohol podcast. We need one
Yes.
pour.
Solid.
Thank you very
We're-
much.
We're doing our own spin-off.
Had that in the back pocket. Was waiting to bring it out. So
All
thank
right.
you for coming along with me on that one.
Alrighty, so you wanna jump in?
Yeah, we could talk about
Jump into the
Spider-Man
episode?
3. I think maybe
Spider-Man
kind of
3.
like we've talked about kind of with the last two episodes. Obviously, this is the culmination of Sam Raimi's, I would go as far to say, iconic trilogy, Spider-Man 3. How does this movie in your personal chronology, right? Where does this movie pop up for you? Or
So not excluding like I'll just do just the Raimi Spider-Man movies since that's the series, just to
Sure.
keep it clean and to keep politics out of it and
Sure,
stuff.
sure,
But
sure, sure. For
'cause I
now.
feel like it just gets more controversial like the longer the later it goes. But it's for me, it is. There was a long time where two was like my number one,
Sure.
and after rewatching them last year and again
For
these last
this.
couple of weeks for this, it's I think it literally is just like an order of like how they came out in terms of the best. I still think number one is the best, even though
Nice.
two's got more of a polish. I think there's something about one that is just like lightning in a bottle,
Totally. I get that.
and then I think it's literally just one, two, and then three at the bottom. But three has grown on me so much over the years, where I'm like, it is better than I've ever given it credit for, and at the same time, exactly as bad as I remember it.
Yes, that is also how I would define this movie as. Yeah, I feel like I think I brought it up in the first episode, and I don't remember if I brought it up last time, but there's like a brief stint I think in people's lives where the Sam Raimi movies are silly and corny,
Yes.
and that is in like a negative context. And Spider-Man 3 I think has the most of those elements. I feel like when people point to like the people that critique these movies and say
Yeah.
that they're bad or whatever tend to just point to the stuff in Spider-Man 3. But as I get older and as I revisit these movies, it's like I just have more fun with them, man. Like it does have problems and we'll get into it.
Yeah.
But I I said this in the last week and we'll wait until we maybe catch up to him in the runtime of the movie, but Eddie Brock's Venom has grown on me, like or Topher Grace's Eddie Brock has
Yeah.
grown on me. And we can get into that a little bit later, but
Yeah,
like,
we can get to that when we get to it.
but this movie obviously, yeah, for Force Forever has been what, or at least was regarded as kind of like one of the laughing stocks. Like it was like
yeah.
this X-Men 3, Superman 3 and 4.
Yeah.
This
It's all like right around the same time too,
Yeah.
where everyone just like we were like nothing but bangers, and then it was like, oh, everyone's like dropping the ball like left and right in superhero movies.
Oh yeah.
Like
Insert name of Marvel movie in the 90s up until Blade. Blade rules.
can I confess something to you on the podcast?
Of course.
I still have never seen Blade.
Dude, I don't know if you knew this, but some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill. And I think it's frankly pretty important for people to know that. And I appreciate Wesley Snipes for letting us, you know,
Yes.
for giving that PSA.
Thank you for opening up our CGI
It's so
eyes
fun,
to
dude.
this.
We're not talking about Blade, but Blade is watch Blade. People should watch Blade. It's so fun. But
We'll add it to the series.
Yeah,
it'll
Blade-
come up eventually. We'll
Blade
do it.
feels
We'll
like
do
so-
Blade.
well, because he shows up in Deadpool.
Yeah.
Spoilers. But yeah, Spider-Man 3 I feel like was joked about for forever, and I think as
Yeah.
we've gotten more Spider-Man movies, more superhero movies, things of varying degrees of quality, I think people go back and it's that thing of like Spider-Man 3 probably a mess, definitely a little bit of a mess,
Yeah.
but it's still like I'd rather have a movie that ended up being a mess that has the clear vision of a single person
Yeah.
than a absolute like you know,
like the
complete
movie's like a
toast.
huge swing and not a super successful one, but it's like more interesting than a lot of stuff we've gotten in the last
Yeah.
couple of years.
I would also say for the most part, like this movie was also like the thing that you point to of like one villain, only one villain. Don't do any more villains than one.
Yeah.
And rewatching it for this and rewatching it last year, it's like honestly, I think it's kind of how I feel a little bit also about the Beetlejuice sequel that we just got,
Mhm.
where I'm like, there are so many good ideas for the sequel to Spider-Man 2 in this movie. We should pick one.
Yeah.
Is kind of the thing of like you have all. I think all of them work to varying degrees. All of them could
Yeah.
work really
They're
well.
all super interesting ideas, but they don't have like enough time to like explore
Yeah.
each idea. Like I was thinking like every time like there's like a different plot point, it goes for like what feels like 20 minutes, and then you jump back to like, oh, now we're doing this thing.
Driving.
And then you'll get lost in that, and then it's like, oh, now we're gonna jump back over here, and it's just like, whoa, like the amount of like the way it's like spaced out is like wild.
I agree. Well, it feels like at times it feels like I'm like watching like vignettes. Like I'm watching like a series of Spider-Man shorts that have been compiled
Mhm.
into one movie. Like because the movie kind of has this like ADHD keeps like darting around and like
Yeah.
focusing on this and then focusing on that, and oh, by the way, Sandman's still here, like kind of problem. Like that
Yeah.
for me is the biggest issue with the movie, is just the fact that it's like you gotta pick a lane.
Yeah, it's like that weird thing too, where it's like the emotional crux of the movie kind of hinges on the Sandman subplot, and it's kind of the thing that gets the least amount of screen time.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, I feel like people know this, but it would be remiss of us to not bring it up that, like, obviously, Raimi talks about him having creative control in the first one, having more creative control in the second one, and then this one, he kind of gets the hand on the shoulder and everybody's watching him. And by the way, you really should put Venom in here because I know you really only care about 60s Spider-Man, but hey, the 90s weren't that long ago.
Yeah.
Like, kind of thing.
We're trying to sell some toys.
Yeah, it's like the people need Venom, I think is what it was. And like, even like, we'll get into it, but like Harry has some things that feel very much like the studio being like, we want this, 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 and this, and Raimi kind of having to give it to them. I think despite all that, he still again manages to put together a movie that I think is entertaining and watchable.
It's still very entertaining,
and it's funny. We said this off mic, but for better or for worse, it's the funniest of the 30.
It is. I think it also has probably pound for pound the most memes.
It does. I have a mark, maybe just jumping into the movie.
Yeah.
I have a mark because I felt like it was important. I wrote 6 minutes into this movie and we already have our first meme. And it's Harry looking at Peter at the opera.
Yeah.
I was like, we are not slowing down. But
no,
even going into the movie, I feel like it's like there already feels like something's off. I don't know if you got that, but
no, tonally it feels. I was actually gonna say if we want to just like jump in the credits, because in this one, right, Danny Elfman did not return.
Yes, Christopher Young.
Yeah, Christopher Young takes over for the score, and he uses Danny Elfman's score and he kind of weaves it in. But in the intro this time, one, sad to not see another Alex Ross recap of the previous movie.
Yeah, it's not as good, is it?
It's not as good. But there's literally like a shift in the intro where it's like, here's the classic thing, like bum, dun, and then it shifts into the Christopher Young score, almost as if he's like hijacking the movie. Like almost like the way Venom hijacks the movie. Like it's kind of funny and probably mostly intentional, but it's just like hilarious to like how like it really does like right turn into the different score.
It is. Yeah. It's that thing of like, I agree with you. Cause it's like, and I have it in my notes that it's like, I like that even visually we're having like Venom, like the symbiote, and then Sandman's sand, for lack of a better word, like coming in and messing up the credits and like, going on top of Spider-Man's webs, and that the themes like accompany that is kind of fun. And the themes are good. The Venom theme and the Sandman theme are both good. I think Christopher Young, maybe while not hitting the same highs as Danny Elfman, I think does a pretty good job. There's a couple moments where I think the score, it doesn't work for me personally. Yeah. But I still think there's certainly a lot of quality in there. But yeah, going in, like, I think because 1 and 2 are so clean and like specific and just like we're doing the theme, that's it. Because we get the clashing themes of Sandman and Venom, your body already kind of is like, oh, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then we open into the opening monologue where he's like, guess what? I'm doing pretty great.
He's like, my life is actually awesome now.
Which I like I want to like the like turning of the head on like, we're opening this now instead of Peter in crisis, like 1 and 2. It's like everything's chill and your assumption is that the movie's going to tear Peter down and then build him back up to being Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But kind of as like an ongoing note, again, I love Tobey. His voiceover in the beginning and ending and in the Spider-Man suit, it feels a little flat. I don't know if it feels like that to you.
It feels a little flat. I mean, I think we talked about this last year when we rewatched them. His physique is noticeably smaller, like in the back end too.
Yeah,
like, I feel like he's like, I got the money, like who cares kind of attitude a little bit, which it's just like,
I mean, it happens. I mean, there are other superhero actors over the time, getting into that shape takes a lot, and so they stopped doing it, and it was a different time. Same. But it does feel like when he's doing the like, like, oh boy, like I got the girl, like all that stuff. It feels like, and I say this with love to the video games, but it does feel like he's doing it for the video game, and it feels flat.
It feels flat, yeah.
And I don't think he's bad in the movie. I actually think he's still pretty good.
No, he's got some great beats in this movie.
It's just whenever he's doing ADR and he's dubbing over the Spider-Man mask, it just feels like it's like you could tell he's not.
Yeah, he's just like
he's in a room in Burbank.
Yeah, I think what you were saying, because like at this point, like he's clearly got the city on his side.
Yeah,
is like where we pick up on this one, which is a stark difference where it's sort of like kind of feels more 50-50, where it's like a lot of people are still like a lot of people like Spider-Man. There's a lot of like controversy around it, especially with the Daily Bugle like doing their thing.
Mhm.
But there's also that thing of like no one likes Peter is like kind of like the shtick of like the first two of like he kind of has to like win like the public opinion like every movie, and in this one he just has it out of the gate, and he's a little bit arrogant in a way that is like not fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's just like a little like, come on man, like you've always been so humble, and in this one he's like it's just kind of rude like in a lot of it too, like
Yeah, and it's
it's less charming, I think was what I was
certainly.
thinking.
I know, I'm with you. Like, it is interesting and fun to see Peter riding high, and I think, I mean, like, their intention, and we'll get into this later, was to do more movies. Like, obviously you can't have every movie be,
Yeah.
I'm Peter Parker and my life sucks. So you do have to like switch it up every so often. But yeah, God, Peter just is kind of an asshole in this
Yeah.
movie.
Like when the kids are like, he's like, oh, you guys stick around, it's gonna come on again in a second.
Yeah.
It's like, calm down, dude.
Well, and it's going into, obviously, MJ kind of where she's at, and we've kind of discussed this before. Much love to Kirsten Dunst. She does not really get anything to do in this movie.
No.
And she's kind of just stuck being upset like for the whole
Yeah,
time.
like they kind of have like the groundwork for her to have stuff to do like in her own life, but they don't. This movie really just comes down to like her waiting
for Peter.
for Peter.
Yeah.
Like, and like that's kind of it. And it's like that thing of like you're like also it's like they kind of had that like, oh well, we don't actually know what to do once they get together, so we have to break them up again.
I have a note where it's like like Peter, this is the first time we've seen Peter as a boyfriend. And if this is a summarization of Peter Parker as a boyfriend, he's not very good.
No.
It's like after the show, she's self-conscious and stuff like that, like many actors are, something I'm sure that you can relate to. I certainly can.
Oh yeah.
Like
I mean, or no, never.
yeah, self-conscious, never. I'm great.
What's that word? I don't
know. We'll have to look it off mic, I guess. But but Peter is, he's constantly not listening to her. And again,
no, he's not.
I understand it being like that's the intention, but the hard part is like it is, like you said, it's kind of hard to watch.
Yeah,
Like,
I think part of it is like he's no longer the underdog,
sure.
and it's like that's kind of like the audience way in is like we're always rooting for Peter to try and figure it out, and from this time it's like, God, dude, like get it together, like
Yeah, it's like you finally have everything, and I guess maybe I'm playing into the movie's intent of being like you finally have everything and you're fucking it up.
Yeah,
but I don't know, it works sometimes and it doesn't work other times.
Yeah, it's kind of hit and miss, like as the movie like goes. I think
I almost like maybe I'm going too far, but like it almost feels like when I'm watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where I'm like laughing at the fact that this person is being so unbelievably terrible to the person opposite them.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it's kind of like, he's kind of like, this is the me show. Like, I know you're feeling bad, but like when I was Spider-Man, it's just like, dude, just listen.
yeah. And like, obviously, so we go from this and we talk about the meme. We kind of go from the Broadway show right into Harry and Peter, and their relationship building off of these last two movies. Harry has he's turned heel. He's bad guy.
Yeah.
He's all, he's got all the goblin serum and he's crazy and all this other stuff.
Although he doesn't have it like just quite yet. Right? I think the way it like plays out, it's like you meet and you think he has it, and then like there's a sequence and then he's like juicing like right before he goes.
I've always taken that as he re-ups. That he's like doing it, that he has taken it and he's kind of like, because isn't that like even like in like Spectacular Spider-Man, like the whole thing is that it's like the green and he like takes it a few times. I can't
remember how it goes in Spectacular Spider-Man. Shout out that show though for being one of the best, like
probably the best version of the show Spider-Man that we've got.
I think as far as animated shows goes, it's probably the best one. So
Harry Osborn, how do you feel? I want to just because he jumps right into being the new Goblin, which is his credited name.
That's what the boxes on the toy said.
It says it in the credits too. He's the new Goblin. Is
new
the name.
Goblin.
obviously Harry is not the Hobgoblin in the comics. There was a lot of talk about just like
Letting him doing it. Yeah.
yeah, instead of having it be like in the comics where he's just Green Goblin again,
Yeah.
maybe he's Hobgoblin. They landed on New Goblin.
Green Goblin, I.
Yeah, that I'm into that. Green Goblin 2, Electric Boogaloo. There's thousands of
There's
alternatives. Harry is a little bit he's to be honest, of the three villains, Harry is probably the biggest miss for me.
Yeah.
And I like Harry in the two.
This is like a subplot that should have been. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts. I think they should have saved him as the new Goblin. Is like, no, he's gonna
For 4.
Like this movie's gonna end with him like taking it, but like. I think it's a huge miss that they didn't involve him in the creation of Sandman. Like he's already like heavily involved in Ock. In this one, it's so like random.
Yeah.
And it's like you could have had him like, oh, this is part of the torment or something. Like, and it's
well, also like getting into
like there's a way they could have like tied it all together, I think, better. And instead it's just really random and mostly coincidence.
Yes. I think going into kind of the studio on the shoulder of Sam Raimi kind of a thing, the design for New Goblin is a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, it's pretty.
It is
pretty
a
boring
checklist of. I think I have on my notes. It says the New Goblin suit feels like a studio checklist of what teenagers think is cool in 2007.
Yes,
it is a paintball mask, a snowboard, and a katana.
Yes,
for lack of a better term, it is like It is.
Yeah,
and then like
it's snowboard paintball mask.
Yeah,
that is what.
And it's like, the Goblin, like the Green Goblin, we have our, we've talked about kind of the design of Norman's Goblin in the movies, but like looking at the New Goblin, every time I'm watching it, I'm just like, this is just a video gag, but I'm just sitting at the screen, just like blankly staring.
I know.
Because he's not like, Ock looks great. Like even Venom, like, again, for all the conversation, Venom has a very specific design.
Yeah.
Sandman has that, massive striped shirt.
Yeah.
But like New Goblin, he's like all black basically with like some green highlights. And it's just, he's the least interesting visually, I think, unfortunately.
He kind of is. And it's kind of wild that that's the angle they went when it's like, you've already got like two very muted color palettes in the other two villains. Like,
yeah. And yeah, it's just Harry, we go right into the fight basically between the two of them.
Basically. Well, so it's like Peter goes to the show, then he goes to see Aunt May, and then shout out again to Rosemary Harris. I wrote it again multiple times that she's just the goat.
She is. Not in this one nearly as much.
Not in this one as much, but when she's there, she's just dropping bars. Like, again, it's like the plot of this is so all over the place. It's like kind of hard, but like,
yeah,
I still think she's doing a good job of like doing the Aunt May thing in this one. But like, he goes there, he wants to marry MJ, so he tells her, and then she gives him the ring.
Story about the beach.
The story on the beach. And then on his way back is when he gets into it with Harry, and they have their fight.
Which, like a lot of the action sequences in this movie, I have it later. I was like, there's a little too. This is such a niche note, but this isn't really the note itself. It's more indicative of everything. It's a lot of two superpowered people CGI models falling.
Yeah.
Every action sequence involves that. And I think, again, it's like something just feels off. I don't know if it's that because we're do a lot more CG models, it feels like in this movie.
Yeah.
It's probably the same amount, but there's I don't know what it is. But
well, there's like more, and then on this one, it's like the models aren't as good.
The face model, there are several moments where it is like clear, and it's 2006 or whatever when they're doing this stuff. So like, I understand we're not at Thanos or wherever, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But like, it's really, a lot of the sequences are really rubbery. This really first rubbery sequence is like with Harry and them. Like, I like the dramatic tension of the ring and Peter having to catch the ring.
The ring, like
yeah, but we don't. It's focused on, but I wish it was more of the specific crux of the fight.
Yeah, I think this scene, from like research, I think it's a reshoot. They added stuff to this fight because one of the like test screenings basically was that like the movie's kind of light on action, And it's
Interesting.
like it's a long movie and there's not a lot of action.
It's the longest of the series.
Yeah. What is it? Is it like
It's 219.
219.
Yeah.
God, it feels like
With credits.
It feels like 2.5.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, this fight, and it also kind of leads into again this other thing of like, this movie is a lot of very serious moments immediately followed by the silliest physical gag. Like it's like the fight is very, for all of its kind of rubbery CGI, like we were talking about, it is intense. Is he going to keep the ring? He's fighting his best friend, blah, 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 this stuff. And then Harry gets, ragdolled through a New York City alley. And it is like kind of, I don't know if it's intentional. Actually, honestly, the sound effect his head makes.
Yeah, it's like a thing.
Like, I'm like, how is that not meant to be a little humorous? And then when Peter goes right into like, oh my God, Harry, like, not to say that he shouldn't be concerned for his friend, but watching the movie, I'm like, where I feel like I'm, again, like the ADHD, like in Whiplash, like the tone is like, it's spraying wildly.
Yeah.
That was not a sentence. We'll cut that part. But
well, now we got to leave it.
Yeah, you're right. Now we do it. Spiraling. Thank you.
Spiraling. I was like autocorrect. I'm like, I don't know what that is.
It's all right. But yeah, we go right into it, and then we go into the amnesia.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on that?
I like the idea of like we're gonna reset Harry, but also it's just that thing of like it's only so that they can plot wall him long enough to do all the other stuff they need to. So like it's again like it just would have been a lot cleaner if they just saved this for a different movie. If like, it's like
if it was Peter versus Harry.
Yeah, like because it's just like this is like a thing that could have run through the entire movie of like, oh my God, like we haven't been there for each other. Like I'm trying to fix this, and then like, or maybe I'll just ignore it until it bites me in the ass. Like it's just like it's so much to like tack onto a movie that already has like, by the way, the man who we thought killed your uncle didn't kill your uncle. It's like we're doing both, like amnesia arc and the real killer. Like
also aliens are real.
Aliens are real. Also, new girlfriend ? Like
yeah,
like there's like so many new things that they're trying to introduce. And like one of the things we talked about in like when we were doing the Spider-Man 2 episode is that like all like the best characters, like all the additions are like strong additions, and like it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna beef up Jay Jonah, like because he's clearly like one of the best parts of the first movie, and so you get more bugle ensemble. And then like in this one, it's like we're gonna add like 13 more ensemble. Like it's like we've got we've got Sandman, we've got Eddie Brock / Venom. So you have to introduce both those concepts.
Yeah,
we get Gwen Stacy,
Captain Stacy. Like Flint Marko has a whole family that will be present for exactly one scene. It's a whole, and yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. It's this whole thing. And like, they're all stuff that I would like to see.
Yes.
And I'm shocked at how, I'm surprised at how, I guess surprised and not surprised that they were just like not patient and just shoved it all in there. Yeah, they just did it all. Yeah. Because also, not to get too CinemaSinsy, but like I don't understand Harry's amnesia because
no, it's super inconsistent. It's like you think, oh, okay, he's obliterated the last.
Well, so the doctor says that it affected his short-term memory. Yeah. Peter has been Spider-Man he's about 22 or 21, 22. So it's been about 4 years, which means that Harry, assuming because when he sees MJ, he's not like, oh, we're dating. Yeah. So is it that he has lost the last 4 years of his life? And then when he sees the poster, the painting of Norman, he's like, I wish I remembered more about my dad.
Norman always springs for Maker's Mark, which is like not like a super expensive bottle of whiskey. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was a poster.
If it was just like a vinyl.
He's like, I'm not cash rich. It's all an investment. So, like this is all aesthetic.
That would be incredible. But yeah, but like he looks at that
He's like,
painting of his
that's an
dad.
iPhone filter that I used to do. I took that myself.
But like he looks at the
Put a
painting.
filter on it.
Looks at the painting of his dad, and he's like, I don't remember much about him. And it's
Yeah,
like,
he's almost like completely forgotten his dad.
yeah. So
Which I guess you can argue is like, well, they never had the best relationship, but like even in one, it's like, no, they have like a relationship. It's just not a very good one, you know?
well, it also seems like he at least like is familiar with his dad.
Yeah, like he's like, I get my dad. He's not home a lot, but you know, like we do shit, and he's like, oh, he drives me to school every once in a while. Like he's attempted to like see me as a person, but it's
Yeah.
just like,
It just I don't understand it, and I think specifically it affected his short term. Maybe I mean, you know, I'm an actor sitting on here talking about movies on a podcast, so maybe I don't know too much about, you know, medical like facts and
Yeah.
stuff. But short term memory feels like it wouldn't be the last 4 to 10 years of his life.
yeah, it's a real grab bag of whatever's convenient that he can remember.
If we were just like, we don't really know the damage of his memory loss, you'd be like, okay, great. And then you add the dramatic tension of him, which they try to do when Peter walks in and he's like, okay, is this guy going to try to jump out of the hospital bed and kill
Yeah.
me? And he does his little like, hey, buddy. You know?
Yeah, he's like, hi.
Yeah. Which Franco is not a compelling villain. I think performance wise, I think his performance is pretty weak in this one.
I think it is. I also think it just also comes down to he has like it's just like like this should be like a full movie of him
Sure.
forgetting and remembering and then becoming the villain again, like tacking this all on. Like I think not to like completely rewrite the movie, but like he should be like taking a back seat and still be like, I'm still trying to make like Oscorp big. I'm still doing this thing. And maybe like the whole thing of like, oh, I've actually figured out that this guy is directly involved in Uncle Ben's murder. I'm going to use that to torture him some more before I get into the suit and go and try and get my vengeance. Like, I'm really going to drag this out. Like,
Yeah.
and then like do something like that where he's like, I've turned this guy into the thing, but it's like, I know the real truth, but you won't. And so I'm going to do this like,
Yeah.
like I'll create a villain out of someone in your past to like mess with you. Like, but instead it's like the most random. We're gonna do some particle testing at night, and also you're on the lam, and which is basically what it is in the comics, where he's like, I'm running away from the cops, and then oops.
Yeah. I also just a quick note about that. I wrote Flint Marko, an escaped convict wanted for murder, being hunted down by a single police car driving 15 miles an hour. They are so casually looking for him, and I just find that hilarious.
Yeah, I will say Thomas Hayden Church, great pick as Sandman.
He's great. He looks just like him.
He's perfectly casted. Like
he's such a talented guy. Like I think he's really good in this role.
Yeah.
He's hilarious in No Way Home.
He's really funny in No
When
Way
he's
Home.
just like, did you kill him? Like all that stuff. I think it's really funny.
And he's like, I couldn't make it into town, so I'm just a sand blob. It's like,
Yeah.
why?
But
I just am.
we jump into, again, it's like these things like Harry gets hospitalized with amnesia.
Yeah.
We quickly go away from that for Venom to literally just crash land into the movie.
Literally just conveniently lands like a foot and a half away, and then like goes,
Oh, I'm
gonna get you. Like,
yeah. By the way,
I'm coming home with you.
Yeah. And then Sandman, we get this whole little, you know, like. I think a pretty good line. Like, I'm not a bad person. I've just had bad luck.
Yeah.
Like, we get to the point that is like very clearly what Raimi wants to be, like the pathos. Like, this is the emotional thing of the movie is Sandman.
Yeah.
But because we're dealing with these two other guys, we literally lose him for like 20 to 30 minutes in this movie.
Like people will just disappear for like 30 minutes. I was even gonna say like the whole subplot of, not to jump ahead a little bit, but this movie's so all over the place, we might as well be.
Sure.
That like the reveal that like Flint is actually the one who shot Uncle Ben, and we've always kind of suspected it, but like, you know, no, he's out, and so we're gonna deal with this now. Actually,
Yeah.
is like, I think it's at like the 55-minute mark is like
Yeah.
where they introduced that, and it's like that's like arguably the movie.
I also think my biggest issue, because that specific point of Sandman being the guy who killed Uncle Ben, intentional or unintentionally, right, which the movie later reveals, has been a topic of discussion of whether or not it was a bad choice. I think my issue with it is that it's so obvious what they are trying to do. They
Yeah, it's not
Sandman
exactly subtle.
No, Sandman is not a character who has a personal connection with Peter Parker often in the comics, especially not in his original run. He's just like he's a sand dude. He's the
Yeah.
Sandman. That's all you needed to know. And it just very clearly feels like it's like we want Peter to be connected to this guy. What if he killed Uncle Ben? And I don't I don't dislike it, but I'm also like I can like I see that and then I can like visualize the writer's room. And I think that's my problem with it. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I think it makes sense. That's how I feel when I watch movies. I'm like, I can see the behind the scenes of this happening.
It's just the like, okay, I understand you want Peter to be upset at you want Peter to have a reason to be upset at this guy.
Yeah, to have like
instead of it feeling
a personal obligation for when the vengeance hits, but it's like,
which I don't really know if he needs, to be honest,
I don't
because
know
we
if
already
he
have
needs-
Harry.
yeah, it's like you have Harry's the emotional connection. I think with the concept of like the black suit, like tainting him and making him more like angry and
Sure.
vengeful, it like makes sense to like tie it personally so that it's like, oh, I've got to do this thing, and like the audience kind of gets it. But it's again that thing of like, even if he's not emotionally connected, if Peter's going like the extra mile to take a dude out, like I think the point is clear that the suit is corrupting him.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know that it really adds anything. And if that's the case, like just shift the focus to Harry. He's like trying to actively like mess up his life.
He's
like,
been in the last 2 movies.
yeah, why bother with the amnesia arc at all? Just go into like what they do later in the movie where he's just like, no, I'm taking you down. Like it's like weird that they need to do it twice. Like
I will say, and it's something to definitely talk about. It's arguably the highlight of the movie. Sandman Reforged, when he comes back.
Yeah, when he like brings himself together. It's probably the best scene in the movie.
I think it is. It continues to hold up. I think, again, Christopher Young, like we talked about, maybe his score doesn't hit the same highs as Raimi's, but I think he does a great job in here. I think the effects are really good.
The effects are pretty great. Yeah.
I love the dramatic beats. I love that it's largely silent.
Yes.
Or exclusively silent, actually,
Pretty much.
other
It's
than
just
score.
like just the music and maybe some like pebbles like clicking, but
I love it. I think it's great. I think all of the Sandman visual stuff is rad. I have several notes that are just like, Sandman is a big kaiju monster, and I am very into that idea.
So you're into him just actually making a Godzilla noise at the police.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about it that intently, but yeah, when he comes out of the truck, and again, the whole like score, every time that happens, I'm like, yeah, man, this is clearly the stuff, like this is the stuff that Raimi clearly wanted to do.
Yeah,
and it shows.
It shows.
Like, not that the other stuff isn't good, because there are, like, he's clearly still behind the camera, but the Sandman stuff, I'm all like, okay, yeah, clearly, this is what we wanted to do.
This is what we want to do the whole time. But I
we
think
going
all
from,
this is sort of broken up with like his relationship with MJ. Her career is not going well. She's trying to vent about that. Peter's not really listening / doesn't have the time to listen to it doing the superhero stuff. But even like there's one moment where he's like, they have like a little thing, and then he's just like, oh yeah, I gotta go.
Yeah.
And he just like leaves, and it's
Well,
like,
he
like no, like, hey, we'll talk about this later. I need to hear this. I want to be there for you, but I'll be right back. Like
he gets the
he just
police
literally
radio.
just is like, I gotta go, and then he just like leaves.
He has the gall to look at her and say, "Go get him, Tiger." Like that.
Yeah, he's like,
try to do
come
it.
on, you're like you're here to support me, right? It's just like, oh, it's so like awful to watch in this one.
It's terrible. I also, so we go basically from all that stuff, we go into the sequence with the building with Gwen Stacy. We meet Eddie Brock. We meet all of basically the supporting players.
Who Gwen Stacy is introduced as being a classmate.
Yeah, she is briefly introduced as a classmate.
And he's still taking Dr. Connor's class.
Yes.
Do you think he is retaking the class again? Or do you think this is just one of the many courses that Connor's... Because perceivably, he's been referenced since movie 1.
Yes.
Peter exclusively takes his classes.
Well, he says he's the top of his class, which means one of two things. It means it's a new class, and he is the top of that class, or he has retaken the class from Spider-Man 2, and he is now the top of that class.
Yes, like at one point he's like a TA, and then he's been fired, but he's still taking the class. He's getting extensions on his deadlines, and then like in this one, he's actually seems to be getting it.
If there's one thing we've learned about this series of films is that Dr. Kirk Connors is a very generous man.
He's a very lenient teacher.
But yeah, we're introduced to her briefly in the beginning. She shows up then in this big action set piece, something that I like, part of the development of this movie is Gwen Stacy. There is Peter saving this group of models during this photo shoot, and then Harry, or excuse me, there's the jazz club sequence, and Peter brings a girl there. That apparently in one of the drafts of the script, those were two different women. And then they said, we want Gwen Stacy. And they said, we have no room for Gwen Stacy. And they said, well, there's a model woman in this sequence. And then there's a girl that Peter takes out on this date later in the movie. What if that was Gwen Stacy?
Wow. You could have done Betty Brant or Ursula. And you're just like, let's add another character.
Yep. I say this with love to Bryce Dallas Howard, who I think is very talented. I think she's a good director. She is, or at least the character. This is Gwen Stacy in name only. She holds no connection to Gwen Stacy in the comics.
Basically, she's nothing. It's nothing else.
I wish she had more to do in this movie.
Yeah.
Because she kind of, again, suffers from specifically... MJ suffered from this in the series, but even more so in this one. They just kind of are there to be saved, which is really, really shitty.
Yeah. And in this one, too, it's like... Just going back to like Peter being like kind of like he's pretty cringy like with some of the choices he makes in this movie as like a human.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're gonna give him the key to the city because he saved Gwen Stacy, and like he's just gonna make out with her like in front of his girlfriend. Like it's like, dude,
and he knows she's there,
and he never once
points it out.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna come in over here, and he just goes with it. And then like later in the movie too, he's just like, he doesn't really apologize ever for it.
No.
Like.
He also doesn't even consider, and again, we'll get to this, but that him and Gwen like know each other.
Yeah.
That MJ doesn't know that they know each other.
He's left that out.
Yeah. Way to go, Peter.
Way to go, Peter. He really drops the ball bad. Like he's a terrible boyfriend in this movie.
I do think the action sequence of the building is pretty fun.
I will
pretty
say
good.
Like the action's like sparse. It's really spread out, but when it happens, it's pretty good.
I will say we also get much like the symbiote, Eddie Brock just walks right into the movie.
Just walks in and he goes, I'm here too.
He says, by the way, my name's Eddie Brock, Edward Brock Jr.
Yes.
We should be...
Get it right.
Yeah. Some respect on his name. But so, yeah, I guess we can maybe get into Topher Grace. What do you think? Where do you stand with him in this?
So, I mean, retroactively, like, I remember when I first saw this when I was like, I don't know, I think it was like 12, 13. Sure. I remember thinking, I hate every second of this man. Like, I remember thinking, like, why this guy? What is this? Like, obviously, the animated series from like the 90s and the PS1 Spider-Man game, like those versions of Eddie Brock leave a very strong impression on my mind. So I'm like, who's this tiny man? It was like all I remember thinking in the past. And now I think he is an interesting like foil to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man specifically his Peter Parker of just like this guy who is so caught up in his own delusion that he's like, yeah, I'm the real guy. I'm the guy. Like, I actually think it's really funny. And I think it's a good choice.
I think
as like an angle in of like, this guy sucks.
Yeah. I think Topher is really good in the movie.
I think he's really good in this movie.
I think every time he shows up, I am having a good time.
Yes, it's really funny. I think his Venom is not good, but like that is, I think, has more to do with the production around him than Topher Grace. I think he does the best he possibly could with this version of the character, but as Eddie Brock just by itself, I think he's actually really good and underrated.
I agree. I think, he definitely gets less interesting when he becomes Venom.
Yeah.
But when he's Eddie, I think he's a lot of fun. I think also of the time, right, like you said, kind of like retroactively, right, with hindsight and all this other stuff. Like, I mean, comic book fans, and I say this is one of them, like it's like accuracy is everything. You know what I mean? And that was part of the big thing is that when the Spider-Man suit came out for the first time on Spider-Man 1, everyone was overjoyed because it's like, holy shit, they did the suit. We've never had this before, blah, 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 blah. And so when Topher gets cast, people, are like, he's not big enough. He's not mean enough. He's not a bully. But the idea that he's just, like, I know they said he's like the anti-Peter. Yeah. I do think it works. I think it works.
I think it's a good foil. I think it sets up like Peter going to the dark side pretty great.
Yes. And I know, like I said in the last episode that I was like, hot take, I actually like Topher Grace's Eddie Brock, and I think it gets better as time goes on.
Yeah.
Like, I think, and this is also speaking as someone who has certainly their fair share of critiques, but likes the Tom Hardy Venom movies for what they are.
Yeah.
But I do think if I want to see like, I like that this Venom is like coated in jealousy. Like
Yeah.
Hardy, as much as I love how committed he is in that role, and I think visually, again, this is that thing of like aesthetically, that version of Venom, Hardy's version, maybe is more comic accurate. It's in terms of
It's
size and
more
stuff.
visually accurate.
Sure, but in terms of Eddie and Venom being like just like a raging amount of jealousy and hatred for Peter Parker, I think that's all there. I mean, they basically, and again, the movie is so scattershot that we don't really get to delve into it, but we do hit the beats of a pretty accurate Venom story. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
we're
like,
doing
we
all
get
the
the
stuff that we
beats.
should do.
Yeah, it's just like that thing of like when the comics did it, it was the symbiote saga. And so like just doing like all of it in one movie is so much, and it probably would have benefited from spreading this arc out over 2, maybe 3 movies.
Yeah.
Like let's do the suit in this one, and then we'll set up Eddie as Venom in the next one. Like tease it out, have people come back for more. Like just
Yeah.
stop like bogging down the whole movie with this. Like
Yeah.
it's just so much for one movie. Like that's all I kept thinking this time.
Every scene I go, man, I wish I had more time to focus in on this, but we have to go to the other thing now.
Yeah, we're
We have
gonna go
the
back
other
to
thing.
either amnesia or failing careers
Yep.
or the real killer. Like
Which I will say, MJ being recast in that Broadway show, yeah, that does happen. That's basically exactly how it goes.
yeah,
To the point where even the director, I do think it's fun. I think we hang on it, the aftermath of that
that
scene
was
for too
so
long.
unprofessional.
But yeah, the fact that even they're like, wow, that was not handled well at all. It's
Yeah,
like,
I was like, yeah, that wasn't.
yeah, you're right. You're totally right. And what a way to kick her while she's down. She walks out, everybody claps, and Spider-Man swings.
Yeah, and then he like rubs it in her face later. Also, by the way,
My favorite thing in what he says to MJ is when he says that Spider-Man is a big Halloween item.
yeah,
That is
yeah.
so
It just for
ignorant.
MJ, it gets so bad. Like it goes from her losing the show, finding out the way she finds out, seeing Peter swing through the city, getting applauded, and then I think like the next sequence is the parade, where he like kisses another girl, and
Yep.
then like.
And
then
then
after that, like, cause she didn't even tell him that she's lost the gig, and he's just like,
No.
we're
He's
riding
too
high.
focused on
He's
himself.
so like full of himself in this movie, and it's so. I mean, I could talk about how like not charming it is, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, like you go from that to that, and then you go to the dinner.
To the dinner scene with my favorite of the Bruce Campbell cameos.
Yeah,
I just because I think it is the funniest.
his French accent is breathtaking. Like,
It's
it is
pretty
really
good.
good. Like, I don't know if it's like accurate, but it feels so accurate. I don't know. Like I can't do a French accent. I can do
Me neither.
I can do like a Clouseau, I think.
Sure,
but
sure,
like
sure.
that's not
No, I think it's.
that's not accurate.
What do you mean? But I do.
It is the gold standard, but I don't know if it's
That is
accurate.
true. But what I love about Campbell and the way I think why I like this one the most is that how how he is like basically like helping Peter.
Yeah.
Like his joy is continuously fucking up the situation. I do love the bit where Peter hands him the ring and he goes to look at it and he puts his glasses on and he like makes fun of how small the diamond is. He like taps it and goes, "Hello," like that.
Yeah.
It's such like again like it's Campbell's like a master. He's so
he
good.
really is a master.
And it's clear that him and Tobey or it seems clear that they're having so much fun
Yeah.
doing this stuff. Yeah, it's and then obviously Peter's sitting there and he's so focused on the proposal. We get another meme of the how'd that get in there, like all that
we
stuff.
get another meme.
And then MJ proceeds to come in and Peter continues to be an asshole and doesn't listen to her.
And then the reveal that he knows Gwen Stacy happens. She learns.
Yep.
They have a blowout. She leaves. It's not really like a blowout, I guess, but she's hurt, and
She is hurt.
rightfully so.
She's on the verge of beating Peter Parker's ass.
I think it was one of the things that was clear to me, like rewatching this, like when it came out in theaters again, was like she got like so much flack for being like a bad girlfriend, but like in this movie, it is like
I'm
Peter is a terrible boyfriend.
I'm like completely on MJ's side.
Yeah. Um,
I would much. I'm almost at a point at that point of the dinner scene of being like, I would much rather just continue to follow her.
honestly, yeah, I'm like, can we leave with her in this scene? Like, but yeah, brutal. What's immediately after that?
After that is when we reveal Sandman, because Peter's like waiting by the phone, I think, and then they
Oh
let them
yeah,
know that
that's
it's
right.
the
This
police.
is all that happens, and then we find out.
And then
By the way, your uncle's real killer's still out there.
yes, which I think Tobey does a pretty good job in this scene.
Yeah.
I like, there's like a beat where Rosemary Harris, where like the photos are down there and she asks to put them away. I think little bits like that are help. They kind of
Yeah.
help make them feel a little more human. I like that addition. But yeah, again, it's that thing of like, outside of it being nice to see Cliff Robertson again as Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
Again, it's that thing where I'm like, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I know what's happening right now. Like, I mean, Peter has the line, which was in the trailers, this guy killed my uncle and he's still out there. I like vividly remember that.
I remember it was like seared into my brain.
Yeah, like a big moment.
Like with a cattle prong. That line is like seared into my forehead.
Yeah, he's, yeah, it's, and then we go into that basically pretty soon after that. He dons the black suit. I like getting to see the Evil Dead style cam of the symbiote is nice.
It's fun. It's very much like something that's in Raimi's wheelhouse. It's like a shame that there's not time to do this better.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we do that. He puts the suit on. He goes and does he just go right into getting vengeance like next?
He goes in and...
Or does he... No, because the symbiote gets him.
Yeah.
And then he goes and takes it to Connors.
He takes it to Connors, and Connors is like, maybe don't put this thing on. This thing looks pretty dangerous.
It's got the properties of a symbiote. Wink, wink.
We call them symbiotes.
Symbiotes. Sorry, my bad.
God, what a reference I just did. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, it's like, we move. Again, it's that thing of like, once this happens, the movie very quickly is like, all right, we're going to get rid of Sandman for a little bit.
Yeah, he just
so that
like
we can just hit the beats of the Venom storyline.
They don't cut back to him in like a beautifully destroyed church monologuing. Like,
No, Sandman literally like melts away.
Yeah,
we get the sequence.
He just beats it.
I like Peter using the black suit to hide in the shadows.
Yeah, that's fun.
But that scene has like a couple bit of like visual highlights, but again, it's just like CGI models falling. The subway like environment, I have it holds no tactility like to me.
No,
you know
what
I mean? I like all this
only
stuff.
Slightly better than the subway scenes in Black Panther.
Yeah, it honestly, that's a pretty good. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, which I mean, I don't know if you remember. There's like the comparison from when like they're both falling, like at the end of Spider-Man 3. Like they compared that to the falling in Black Panther, and it looks like they rotoscoped it in like in like the way that Disney like is reusing like Baloo for like Robin Hood.
For like I honestly, but yeah, it also isn't very long. It's a lot shorter than I remember.
A lot of the action sequences like there's a lot of space between them, and then when they happen, they're pretty short.
I think mainly just because they have so much that
there's just
trying to accomplish
to do.
I wish, again, it's like I'm watching this after watching 1 and 2. I'm like, man, I wish we had more time with these characters, because I think that they all are interesting and could work, and all of the actors are doing a pretty good job.
There's no
minus
reason
James Franco.
any one of these stories. Yeah, James Franco's just kind of walking through the movie, I think.
Yeah.
I think he's better in this than like some other movies I've seen him where I feel like he's really walking through it. But
we're getting to the point where Franco's kind of starting to phone it. We're getting Oz the Great and Powerful, some stuff like that, where he's not really doing his best work.
Yeah.
And then other stuff with James Franco happens that I'm.
We don't have to get into
James
all that.
Franco, not
if you know,
not a great guy.
No, very, very
bad.
Bad, yeah.
Bad and
bad
gross.
is bad and gross. We can leave it there, I guess.
The bummer thing too about once the Sandman stuff goes, it made me realize that I was like, oh, like I actually like you mentioned this a little bit earlier, that it's like we've introduced so many characters that now I'm not getting to spend time with the characters that I like. And not saying that we shouldn't introduce any new characters, but once Mr. Ditkovich shows back up, I was like, ah, man,
Yeah.
I want more of him again.
I know it's same thing. Whenever you go back to the Bugle, it's like, oh my God, where have these guys been?
Bill Nunn, the great Bill Nunn, as previously, uh, just stands around.
He just stands around.
Does not do
Yeah.
anything. Elizabeth
Yeah.
Banks gets 2 lines, maybe.
Yeah, she just progressively gets like less to do in this one.
We didn't touch on it, but the Ted Raimi scene of the Daily Bugle, it's hip, it's now, it's wow, and how, might be one of my favorites in the series.
That's pretty good. I do not like the desk buzzing gag.
I go back and forth on it.
It's weird. I don't know how other people feel, but that's a gag that I just don't get why it's in the movie. It's like, what does this have to do with anything?
I think
I think the idea of it's funny, but I just tonally, it's such a weird joke for what the last 2 movies like tonally that these sequences usually come with, and so it's such a like weird
I think
a
it's
buzzing desk. Who has that? Was that a thing? Was that like an as seen on TV?
I think it's just that the buzzing is so loud that it's the thing of like,
You know?
Raimi, like, obviously we've talked about it, very inspired by the Three Stooges, is in almost all of his movies or whatever. It's very, very prevalent in his work.
Yeah.
And I think very much true, as we know, knock knock, of course.
Mm-hmm.
How could we forget? But
Rest in peace.
he is able to balance those tones, like that style, in with his movies pretty consistently. Like both Spider-Man movies have it. Evil Dead 2 famously has a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one, we're leaning too much into it.
I think so.
Like
yeah.
there again, like with like the web, there's like several moments where we do like a very cartoony, kind of very broad comedic beat.
Yeah, it's like I feel like in the other 2, it's like we're doing like some like homage to like the Three Stooges, whereas like in this one we're like doing Three Stooges, and it's like.
And I think also because the movie is basically about vengeance and forgiveness, that it just feels a little out of place.
Yeah, it's a little bit like just suddenly having like a fart joke. You're just like, what is
why?
that? Like, like not that they actually do fart jokes in this movie, but
they're not too far.
But it's like totally,
with love
it's like,
to Raimi
what is
and
that?
everybody
like,
there.
Yeah.
I think it just it goes a little bit too far. I do really like the scene after Sandman is quote unquote killed, and Peter goes to May to very excitedly give that news to her that Sandman is dead.
And she's just like, oh, I feel bad for the guy. Or what does she say? She's like,
well, he goes like, he's like, very excited, like Spider-Man killed him, and she's like, why would he do that?
Yeah, she just has that like, oh no, like that's not good.
Yeah.
Spider-Man kills.
And then we go from there. He's obviously upset about the, you'll get your rent when you fix his damn door, all that stuff.
Yeah, and then he tousles his hair.
He becomes. That's just what I was about to
ask.
Yeah,
we get into the best sequences of the movie, the actual best sequences.
The emo Peter, I go back and forth on. I like that. This is what this version of Peter thinks is cool and badass.
It's like that thing of like, I hate it, but also I love the idea, because the implication really, like you said, is that this is what Peter thinks is a badass.
Yes.
But to his credit, Betty Brant's really into it.
This is my problem with it.
No one else
is. What I wanted to get into.
No other woman in this movie is into emo Peter.
A couple extras are. When he's walking down the street, there is a mix of, you're the grossest guy I've ever seen, and you're Chris Evans. Like, it's like,
it plays better.
it like Chris Evans.
Great. That's the standard at this time.
Just a stunning.
We can get into it. I have a story for when we do Fantastic Four. Spoiler alert.
Chris Evans is really attractive.
Super attractive. I got a fun story about that.
But it's the thing of like,
it's not that fun. I don't want to hype that up too much.
I'm excited to hear it. But this is my problem with the emo Peter, is that we, again, pick a lane. Like, we need to know, is Peter into this and everybody hates it, or is Peter into it and it's working?
Yeah, I think either would work if it was definitive, but
yes, I think, I go back and, because I'm just, again, kind of like a whiplash thing. I'm like, okay, well, like, again, in that one long shot where he's doing the iconic dance, like, you're getting like people being grossed out and people being into it in the same shot.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, the movie, I feel like it's telling me that we're into it, but then every like other breath is telling me that we're not into it. And it's not very clear.
No, it is not.
Little thing I just want to mention real quick. when MJ decides to not call Peter and call Harry,
Yeah.
he's painting a bowl of fruit. What?
I feel like it's his like regarding Henry. Have you seen Regarding Henry?
I have not, but I'm familiar with Regarding
like
Henry.
in that when Harrison Ford like he gets caught up in a robbery and he gets shot in the head basically, and he has severe brain damage, and then he's trying to the movie's him recovering. It's mostly through Annette Bening's eyes, his wife in the movie. And there's a lot of him painting like crackers like and stuff.
It was just such like I was like, oh, does Harry paint? Because he's really good at it.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
The only thing that would have been funnier is if he was painting himself. Like,
I would have loved that.
Like in the mirror up, it's like the Disney Mickey Mouse, but like
he's like painting the Green Goblin, but he hasn't gotten to the face yet, and he can't figure. He like doesn't know.
Honestly,
it's the Goblin.
Honestly, it would have been really funny. He's like, I've been having these nightmares, and I've just figured I would do some therapy and paint it. Like that would have actually been a pretty sick scene if he's just like demented goblin drawings.
Yeah,
like,
if he doesn't, if that's like his subconscious or whatever. But yeah, it's just a bowl of fruit, which I think is funny. And then Harry and MJ have their little kind of do the twist whole scene together.
Yeah,
I will say
we somehow found time to do all this.
Yeah, really, we're really getting it in there, especially because I don't know where you stand on this, but the love triangle between Peter, Harry, and MJ, I don't buy it.
I don't buy it either.
I don't buy it.
Because it's that thing of like one of the things that like is really interesting about the first movie is that like all of the things that worked on MJ for Harry is just stuff that Peter did.
Yeah.
Like Harry is not like inherently appealing to MJ on his own. And that's like what I think is so great about it is that
Agreed.
it just leans into the imposter syndrome that he has, that like he was really into her, but she's really into Peter, and like that is like core foundation of like the other relationship.
Yeah.
And in this one, it's like suddenly it's just like working.
Well, yeah,
like
it's like he like they're clearly not right for each other in 1. They barely talk to each other in 2.
Yeah.
And then in 3, bump on a head, I'm as right as rain or whatever, and then all of a sudden they're into each other, and I guess like maybe you could say like because Harry is showing a more emotional like vulnerability and open to MJ, that she's into that. But also once they kiss, she's like, no, we can't do this. I'm not interested.
Her and Harry, I just don't buy, except in that first scene during the parade where she's like admits to him for the like that she got fired, and he has that moment of like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, well, if you need like ears, like he actually is like, well, I'll listen. Like, I don't know what's going on, but like I can be there if you need me. Like,
yeah,
it's like interesting that like for a brief moment, he is actually giving her more of what he needs. But then like, again, once we get to this scene where they're dancing and doing the twist, it's like,
right. I just don't buy that she's into like that. They're like, I just don't. I think if Harry was, like you said, if maybe we didn't do the amnesia thing, he was in, and I'm not, trying to rewrite the movie, but it's like, if Harry was doing kind of like a more amped up version of what he was doing is in 1, where he's manipulating situations because he's trying to get revenge, like, which he does for a beat later, which
but it's
also
it's happening pretty freaking fast.
A lot of this movie for me is this is happening because we need this to happen, because we've decided that it happens.
Basically, it feels like and then as opposed to like the South Park rule of B cannot happen without A.
There's and I think this is part of what it's like the the comedy feeling a little too broad for what we've got in the last 2 movies, but also the movie is, I feel like I'm being told like, okay, this is happening now, as opposed to like believing that the characters are kind of falling through this journey, if that makes sense.
Yeah, basically.
It just, I don't know. I want it to work, and there are moments in their performances or little moments and lines that I think work, but like again, it's like we haven't really done the work for this love triangle thing.
No,
that we're
it's
so
not.
focusing on.
We're pretty much like throwing it in because like at this point in time, James Franco is also becoming a bona fide star.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like we're trying to hang on to that like as much as we can.
It's nice to see Dafoe come back.
Yes.
For 2 seconds.
I will always take Dafoe.
Yes.
He can show up whenever he wants.
I appreciate that to some
he
degree he is in all of these movies.
Mm-hmm.
We get Harry coming back to being evil, and the go for the heart, which is kind of a fun
it's the classic Norman
thing, I suppose.
The classic Osborn.
Yeah, they're like,
should be just the Osborn family motto.
Fuck with
the
people
heart
that Harry loves.
Um,
And then then it's the bridge thing. We have the brief moment where Ursula's like, MJ called back.
yeah,
Peter's just kind of waiting by the phone, hoping that she will forgive him for being a terrible
being a
boyfriend.
really bad
Um,
boyfriend.
and then we
But
get
yeah, we jump into the bridge scene. He proposes.
yes,
She says no, which is a mix of like I actually am saying no, but also I'm being told to say no. I feel, which I think is really interesting. Of like I'm being forced to say no, but like I also probably would be saying no because of everything that's happened in the last week, 2 weeks.
that's where I think I get confused because like that's what I was thinking, and then when she when he pulls the ring out because she's like, well, I'm breaking up with you, and he's like, no, 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 don't break up with me, I'm gonna marry
So I
you.
gotta throw a Hail Mary real quick.
He really throws it in as a Hail Mary. MJ's like eye roll up, which that she's like, oh my, like it feels
Yeah,
like
she's just like, oh, I don't need this on top of everything.
yeah, well, because it feels like she, at least to me, it felt like that it was like she doesn't want to do this. Obviously, Harry's forcing her,
Hmm.
and the proposal is like, oh my god, like this is basically I feel like
Yeah.
they're breaking up because we need them to break up.
Yeah, which is like hilarious because like you also like it like he has like made out with another woman in front of her and like not been there. Like there are lots of reasons for them to
Yeah,
actually
he
break
has
up.
been bad.
He's and the, like we're just like now we're just doing it because like Harry's making her do it.
Yeah. And then obviously we get into the scene, the I'm the other guy. Like again, Franco, not great.
Yeah, just kind of whatever.
Yeah, and I mean him disappearing by the table is funny.
Strawberries. Mm.
Oh, God. It's that thing of like where I'm like, I know you're making choices, and I guess appreciate you making choices as opposed to making none at all,
Yeah,
but I'm not.
yeah,
I don't know if I'm supposed to be laughing at you or being intimidated by you.
yeah. And is this after he does the Saturday Night Strut, right? Because that's like immediately after
Yeah,
he
or no,
quote
he has
unquote.
yet to do it. We actually have not gotten to it.
When
There's
does
a
the montage
brief-
start?
The montage starts after, which is the scene that we're about to get into, when Peter comes to Harry's apartment and kicks his ass,
Yeah, because he
and
just
blows up his face.
yeah, because he's a little sad boy and he's not wearing the suit, and then he
He
puts it on, and then
he
or does he just show up? Do we like? Is there a moment
he
where we see him in his
shows up.
apartment?
The outfit he's wearing. I made a note of this. The
Mhm.
outfit he's wearing because it is unbelievable. He is wearing blue denim jeans, a black zip-up hoodie that is half zipped,
Yes,
and then he is
it's like
wearing
quarter to half.
the full black Spider-Man suit underneath,
Yes,
and it is a cursed image.
it is a very cursed image. And the camera move is so funny too because it's like Franco, nobody. It goes down. He pours the glass. It comes up, and he's just standing there, and it just looks like those memes from like COVID where they're like, "Mom, they closed the gyms down."
It does. Also, we just did the some person is there and then they're not with the Harry thing again. But we get into this fight, which I like in parts. This is the thing that I was kind of referencing earlier of I like the music and I understand that we're trying to like clash this like jazzy feel with the fight,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel. If this is
Yeah,
meant to be
it's-
like a silly brawl or if I feel like I'm supposed to be
Yeah, I feel like
locked in.
it's I think it's a missed opportunity. I feel like they're trying to bring some levity to like a lot of heavy subjects, but like honestly, they probably should have just committed to this being a really tragic two brothers trying to kill each other kind of thing. Like
My thing that popped into my head, not to rewrite the movie, but when I saw the black suit underneath of that quarter zipped hoodie, and I was like, he should not be wearing that. I was like, honestly, if we have the scene of them in the cafe, and that is the two friends, having the argument, I suppose, and Peter, fueled with rage, primarily by the black suit, if he shows up mask on
yeah.
in the black suit, he is not quipping. Like the whole thing with the black suit, right, is that we reach a point where Spider-Man stops being Spider-Man and kind of transitions into Venom, right, is the whole thing. And we do
Yeah.
get that moment with MJ in the cafe,
Mhm.
which again is a moment of this is really funny, and then all of a sudden, whoa, this is really dark, and I don't know tonally how I'm supposed to feel. But this fight of them doing, I mean, it's littered with memes, all the like gonna cry, little Gobby Jr., all that stuff,
Yeah.
which are funny. But like again, I'm like, if this was Spidey in black suit, full Terminator mode,
Yeah.
I feel like I would have I would get
It would probably be more effective.
Yeah.
You know, it would probably be scarier, which like they kind of set up a little bit, but I think they're sort of held back by like we're trying to sell toys here a little
Yes.
bit.
And again, the cut to the montage is like immediately after the fight. Like we don't even get like the end of a line of dialogue.
Yeah.
It's like da 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 da, and then we're in the fight.
Yeah.
We cut right out into it. And again, it's like it's funny.
Yeah. I will say this is where we get our final Maker's Mark bottle, which we
Okay.
talked before we started recording.
Yes, we did.
So you were convinced that there wasn't one, but
Yes.
I actually know where the Maker's Mark bottle shows up in this one.
For the audience, I have not been told. They told me that it is I'm very excited to hear where it is because I looked for it and missed it.
Yeah, so we've mentioned like the previous two movies that there's like a random bottle of Maker's Mark in the
It's
Norman
like
Osborn
Osborn's
household.
family drink. Yeah.
It seems to be the drink of choice, which it's also my drink of choice. I do enjoy Maker's Mark and Woodford.
Not
on
currently
occasion.
sponsored.
Not currently sponsored, but hey,
Not against it.
again, we got the spin-off podcast in the chamber ready to go.
It's true. We need one pour. Get ready.
But no, when they start to brawl, there's a moment where they basically push it off the table into the fire and it explodes. So they effectively kill off the Maker's Mark bottle.
Dang. Maker's Mark just gets thrown around this series. That's funny.
But anyway, I had a note that I was like, oh, there it goes.
It just gets thrown out.
But yeah.
But yeah, the montage, a note about this from, I want to say a podcast that we both listen to that we're both fans of. A little shout out where I heard this bit, I believe, the podcast Blank Check with Griffin and David, a podcast that we love. They talk about that. I think it is on this episode, or maybe I heard it from somewhere else, and I'm just wanting to name drop Blank Check. But they wanted. Thank you. Well, we don't know them personally.
No, we don't know them personally, but
we
it is a fantastic show. If you guys haven't heard it, you should go check it out.
But they meant for Peter to be breakdancing.
Oh my god!
That he was going to do. Our producer Dish off camera just literally like
he just lit up.
Done. He looked like I just told him there's an asteroid rocketing into Earth.
I know.
He was supposed to like literally do like full breakdancing.
Oh my god, that would have been amazing.
The dance choreographer was working out with Tobey, and Tobey was not feeling it, and was just like he couldn't get it in his body.
Why.
Yeah, just he didn't speak to him, and I don't remember what it was. I think they were just like playing music or something, and as a joke, they started doing the like more jazzy kind of silly dance that is in the movie, and Tobey was very clearly into that, and the choreographer went, "All right, I guess we're doing that now."
Wow.
It is iconic.
It's iconic, but it's also crazy that with as much stuff going on, they're like, "We're gonna find time to do this."
Yeah,
like
it. Again, there's
it's
also
a choice.
Yeah, there's a. I am glad that it's here because of the legacy that it has now.
Yeah.
But being in the theater, I don't remember seeing this for the first time in the theater, but this would definitely be my moment where I'd be like, wait a second, what are we doing?
That is exactly what I did. I remember just being like so like hot in the face when this scene came on. I was just like, what is happening? Like I was like genuinely like so like turned off by everything that I saw. And now like in retrospect, it's like some of the funniest things I've ever seen. And it's so classic Raimi camp, but it is just like wild to squeeze this in a movie that has so much else to do.
Yeah, and then we go from there, and then the movie reminds us that Sandman's in this movie.
Yes.
He just pops up. We kill Sandman basically to just let the Venom story go about, and then as we're starting to enter the third act, we bring him back in.
Yeah. He's alive again. And then I think that means we go to the jazz club.
We go to the jazz club.
So we've blown up Harry. We've revived Sandman. We've done the Saturday Night Strut.
Yes, we have.
We've gotten the weird looks. We've maybe
Peter's
seduced Betty Brant.
Yeah, we have done that.
God bless Elizabeth Blanks for selling Elizabeth Banks, not Blanks. For selling that scene. That has to be maybe the hardest thing I think any actor can do is being into whatever they're trying to make Tobey.
That montage feels like that was never filmed. That just has existed since the dawn of time. I cannot imagine that being shot.
Yeah.
It just feels like it has like it existed and they like found it underneath some rubble and they were like, we should really make a movie around
I
this.
know, it's like they pulled that thing out like the Ark of the Covenant, just like the awe. Like
My note for the jazz club sequence is the jazz club sequence is so bizarre and insane, I can't help but be entertained, but it leading into Peter and MJ's very intense moment is deeply misguided.
very deeply misguided. My note is just quote, dig on this, end quote.
Dig on the okay. This again, it's like it is funny. Like this
It's
is
so
funny.
It's such good camp, but it's like we've never done this kind of camp in the previous two movies, so it's really like, whoa.
It's again also like okay, but again now the movie's like, by the way, everybody is loving this.
Everyone's into it, which I will say, Raimi should do a musical.
I would love. Oh my god, that'd be
find
awesome.
that this sequence is clearly like he wants to do a musical really badly.
Also, I know we're in a movie and things are fake and this isn't real and we're running by our own rules. But as someone who's worked in a restaurant, if a person came up to me and came 2 inches from my ear, slipped me probably it's Peter Parker probably $5, and then said, "Find me some shade," I would get that man escorted out of the restaurant before he sat down.
I would find the big guy who comes in later and be like, him.
Yeah.
That's the one that needs to go.
If someone said, "Find me some shade," I would be like, "An umbrella outside. Thank you very much."
Yeah. The buildings are tall in the alleyway next to us.
Yeah, I mean, again, Gwen and MJ, nothing to do. They're just there.
Yeah, Gwen and MJ have nothing to do. And then it's like, what's so sad is that it's like, it's just clearly like, I will shout out to Gwen Stacy. Like, I know she doesn't have a lot to do, but the self-respect of like, oh, he just brought me here to make you jealous. I didn't realize. I thought do you have?
Yeah.
She has that like realization of like
she realizes that Peter is also an asshole.
she's like, oh, this is. I don't want to be caught in this, and
Yep.
she's just like to MJ, like, I'm so sorry to get caught up in this.
And again,
I don't think I knew what was going on.
like, okay, the line after all of this drop of MJ saying, "Who are you?" and Peter saying, "I don't know," and looking to the suit is a moment that would work if he was not backflipping off of bar stools 4 seconds beforehand.
Yeah, and then it's like, he like actively hits the love of his life at the end of that sequence. It's just like, oof.
Obviously, they stage it as an accident, but it doesn't matter. That scene is so intense and serious and real that, again, to go back and forth from
It's
this
becoming like hot on the heels of the silliest things you've ever seen.
of doing Stooges, of doing all that stuff.
It's just like that is a roller coaster at breakneck, like up, down, left. Like
it almost feels like it's like, do you know what you're doing right now?
Yeah, like the actual behavior of an insane person.
Yeah.
Which, he's got the suit, so he is going insane, but it's just like tonally, like the balance is just like way off, I think, in a lot of
It's off.
what they're trying to do.
And then we do then move into a shot again. That's great. Peter in the black suit kneeling on the church is rules.
Some of the best brooding ever.
It's a
which
great
again, it's like
shot.
following up like a series of weird things. It's just like, oh, I'm back in. Like,
Yeah, and again, it's like it's nice to see Raimi show up, and like you get those moments of like, oh yeah, this is a guy who knows what he's doing and is a very talented filmmaker. But again, the movie's just all over the place, back and forth.
But he set up on the church. We get a great sequence of him tearing it off, but again, it's just like we've had the suit for like maybe 10 minutes. Like
My
he
thing
really doesn't have it that long in the movie.
It's also we get I don't think it doesn't work. This is the moment where we realize that like sound is an issue, I believe.
Yeah, it's that he's because in the comics it's fire is a weakness and sonic is
like
usually
high
how it's
vibrational
put. High
frequencies.
sonic frequencies and stuff like that, which he does figure out because of the bell. Like that is the classic thing from the comics of the bell rings and he can take it off.
I would have liked, again, to set up this a little bit earlier. Not saying that he has to remove the suit earlier.
Yeah.
But I mean, the cartoon does it where he gets blasted with the like sound gun.
Yeah.
Not saying that needs to be in the movie, but later in the movie when Peter remembers that the sound is what can affect the symbiote, we literally do like a 5-second flashback to something that happened 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's
And
literally, it's like we just figured out that this is like how it works, and then we're gonna flash back to like literally it's like a 30 like
yeah,
we're gonna flash back to 2 minutes ago.
if we had had like a 1, 2, 3, like we
Yeah.
kind of tease it out, that's how he tears it off, and then he remembers
Yeah.
how to defeat him in that moment. I feel like that would have been a little more consistent.
Yeah, I was gonna say, kind of pitch where I think they should have established the Sonic weakness.
Definitely.
He fights Sandman in the black suit, and the train goes by. Just have the ding, 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 and it like he reacts a little bit to
Oh
it,
my
but then it
God.
ends, and then he gets back into the fight. Like
Yep.
it's like the math is all there.
It's right there. You're right. It's right there.
But again, we don't have time to do that until it's actually relevant. So it's
Yes.
just like part of
I-
the movie being what it ends up being. But
People have said this before. It is objectively really funny that Peter threatens, he disgraces Eddie and
Oh, yeah, who
jokingly
tries
says,
to-
"Get religion," to which
He
Eddie
does.
agrees and
he
goes
agrees
to
and
church.
goes to church.
I think Topher makes the scene work for me.
He really does.
Despite
It's
the
kinda
fact that
funny.
that's objectively silly,
It's
think
objectively
Topher
silly,
nails
but
it.
his character is so that guy.
Yeah.
I 100% buy it.
I mean, when he
Like the math like tracks on that. Of all things, that math tracks.
yes, and a moment that I vividly remember, like the trailer moment of this guy killed my uncle. He's still out there. Topher becoming Venom is a moment. That moment from the trailer where he like leaps
Yeah.
scared the crap out of me as a
Yes.
kid.
I think it's a cool shot still.
It is cool. I like the birth of Venom, despite the fact, again, the CinemaSins thing of like, how could
Yeah.
you see Peter all the way up there? He just does. I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
But I
matter.
mean, we'd also missed like a huge opportunity doing the shocker.
Oh yeah, that would have been that would have ruled.
Yeah.
The cartoon does a really good job.
The cartoon
with
does.
that
I mean, they
symbiote
also have the
storyline.
benefit of being able to do a
It's true,
full
it's
saga, but it's
episodic
again,
and-
this is part of the thing of like this movie probably should have ended like in the bell tower somehow, and Venom should have been the villain for the next one.
Yeah,
But
so
I digress.
Venom is born. Peter does something again. These little human moments that I like. After all this happens, he takes a shower,
Yeah,
which is a little thing that
it's a good detail.
It's a nice detail.
He
I like
probably
it.
should, like reflecting on everything of like
probably-
I've really just dropped the
Peter
ball.
needs to do a lot of things.
He needs to get religion.
yeah, if anybody needs religion right now, it's, asking for forgiveness, it's Peter Parker.
Yeah. Brock needs friends. Peter needed to get religion.
Yeah, Brock needs therapy.
He does need therapy. They probably both need therapy.
But he takes a shower. He kind of washes it away. Aunt May shows up. Love that she hates the apartment. I don't know if you caught
Yeah.
that when she walks in and her eyes wander around the space and I think she says like, I see you haven't changed it. Not that there's very much to change.
Yeah, she
That's
has
such a
that, like-
parent thing to be like, this is where you live.
She's just got that like you could have stayed with me. Like we could be like I still have a much nicer place than this. Why are you doing this?
Yes, and
But it's like, I think that also like speaks to Peter's character of like wanting to make it on his own, as they put it in the first one.
I like the sentiment of you do the hardest thing, you forgive yourself. I think
That's a great line, by the way.
it is a good line, and Harris delivers the hell out of it.
She really does.
Now, given the events that have recently transpired, maybe there are more people that are more
Yeah.
important than Peter Parker in this scenario. But I understand.
Yeah, just the idea of like if
that
you're gonna move on and you're gonna make apologies to people, you got to start by not being so hard on yourself.
It's
and you
hard
need
to forgive yourself.
Yeah, like take stock. Apologize for what you've done, but you also got to forgive yourself at the end of the day. I think that line, it's such a good thematic part of the movie, but again, it's just so underdeveloped.
yeah. And then we get into this moment of Venom and Sandman meeting each other for the first time.
Yeah, this is like what you were saying. We're just doing it because we have to.
We're just doing it because we have to. This scene on like a 7-year-old like writing out comic book. This scene should rule.
It should.
The villains meeting and being like, something to do with Spider-Man, I think, kind of a moment.
yeah.
Also a scene that works
Maybe
really
they could
well.
have been like, we should get like 4 more guys. Maybe it's like 6 of us, like a tight 6.
Don't know why I'm here. Something to do with Spider-Man, I think. But
Maybe like a vampire and like another bird.
that's true. Hey, Dr. Michael Morbius. Wish he was in this.
Yeah.
But they meet up. I feel like it should be cool. Like we said, I think Topher is a lot more interesting as Eddie.
It's
than
just
as
the characters
Venom.
are just a little bit more definitive. Once he becomes Venom, it's just like, I guess again, like all the like gravity, that character is like so beloved and so like terrifying, and then the way he just shows up, it's so like half-assed almost. Like
Also, like, I know Sandman isn't like, we look back at like the villains of 1 and 2 of Goblin and Ock. Like, obviously, there's ultimately like with any of these villains, it's like there is a humanity within them that Peter needs to find a way to save. Right. That's
Yeah.
kind of the thing that happens with 1 and 2, more so in 2 than 1. But there is kind of a general, I know we talk about how small scale like 1 is. There is something that the villain is looking to do. Green Goblin is looking to cause chaos and get revenge.
Yeah.
Ock is looking to like do, to prove he was right. And Sandman isn't really trying to do anything. He's trying to just like get money and like prove to
his whole
daughter.
thing is he's got to save his daughter's life because she's got the rare
she has a disease
and stuff. But it's like, again, like,
we don't have time with that. We don't
have time to do that. And then on top
that.
of it, it's like
he disappears for 30 minutes.
Yeah, like even at the end of this though, it's just like it just becomes about forgiving each other for what they did, and like
for
again
Uncle
you
Ben.
have like the forgiveness for what happened to Uncle Ben, and like that speaks to Aunt May's line of like you got to forgive yourself, and like that probably should be a moment of like Peter like passing that same advice on like to him, like maybe.
Yeah, it's like other than, and I guess maybe 1 and 2 do this kind of same, but like I don't understand why Sandman is like, look, I know that Venom does the like, you want to kill the spider, I want to kill the spider. It's like, I guess Sandman does because he just like doesn't. It'd be easier if Spider-Man wasn't around. But
Yeah.
I don't really get especially in this scene, I don't really get the idea that Sandman is really very interested.
No, he actually kind of has that more like, damn, that was weird. Okay, now back to robbing banks.
He
like,
does.
He
He grabs Venom and goes, "Oh, you're not Spider-Man," and throws him away and walks away.
He's like, that was weird. Like he's just like, not like he just grabbed an alien, like honestly, that would have been like, and he has like no reaction to it. He's just like, he just tosses it, like, and
he's
then
like, another day in New York,
to trudge away, just like, meh. Like that's some like Solomon Grundy stuff right there.
And then we get this brief. I've said this to you off mic when we've talked about it and stuff. We get this brief moment of Peter, looking up at MJ and all this stuff. MJ comes down. We enter the final set piece. It's like so fast.
It is like it's
every
so
time
fast.
I
We
watch
need a
it,
news anchor to transition
to just be like, by the way, we're in the final act. Here's the Sandman
to like
really
to like carry us into the third act because we don't have any other options.
Every time I've seen this movie, I always go, "Oh my god, the movie's almost over."
Yeah,
like,
basically.
I'm always surprised that we're there.
Yeah.
And I think Venom writing the sentence in webs is
pretty funny.
It's really funny and
really
silly.
Funny.
It's something like, it's one of those things where it's like, we've never seen, not saying that we need to have seen that established, but it's just such a crazy thing that just happens, especially because it's like so clearly like a Photoshop
it's
text
just, like,
thing that we've just like PNG just overlaid onto the webs.
I do like the like symbiote hive web cocoon thing built in the construction thing, but I'm also like imagining him like going up and doing all that like all day.
Yeah, true. Yeah, how long that took.
He's like, I got to do all this, and I got to and then MJ has got her shift is probably going to end around there because I've done food, so like I'm trying to imagine Eddie going through his day like, okay, I gotta build all these webs and houses, then I gotta kidnap the girl, and then maybe I should like pawn some of these chores off to Sandman.
Time management. I will say something that as we kind of now come to the conclusion of covering this trilogy, something that I really appreciate about Spider-Man is that his suit is left in like a briefcase.
Yeah,
under his bed. It's
sometimes
such a small
it's on a hanger,
thing.
Sometimes it's in a briefcase.
Yeah, sometimes it's
I guess it depends on if he's dry cleaned it.
True. I just like the idea that the idea of like he keeps his super suit in a suitcase under his bed. I think that's cute.
Yeah, and it's like I think it's Uncle Ben's suitcase too. I think
that's what I have assumed. I know the Holland ones we get a little reference to Uncle Ben, but I kind of assume that's
Garfield
what it is
also
too.
Gets
he gets a
Uncle Ben
briefcase, but it's
too.
his dad.
Oh, that's right.
Because we get the whole magic subway tokens, and stuff, which was a movie we're not.
My parents are spies.
A movie we're not discussing that maybe at some point we'll discuss in the future. Who knows?
It's a later series.
If people want to see us cover the Amazing Spider-Man movies, you can let us know.
Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe.
Absolutely.
But okay, so we're in the third act, and like it's pretty great, I think, action set piece, but it is like that. It's got the similar tropes of like we're gonna beat the crap out of him.
Yeah.
Until
Well, also, I think like a third act is only as good as the characters you have set up in the
True.
previous two, and we just don't have enough of a connection to anybody.
Yeah,
Really,
we're really hanging on
like
by like one pinky to
MJ
every
has to
single
be
character.
like we like MJ, but she has to be saved again. Like we're doing
Yep.
the same thing. We get the scene with Bernard and Harry kind of as we're
Yep.
around this.
Like you said, that man should retire.
That man in the beginning of the movie when he shows back up, when Harry comes home, we'll jump right back. But I had a note when Harry comes home and Bernard goes, "Welcome home, sir," like that. I was like, that man needs to be like laying down.
Yeah.
He cannot
Harry
be
should
working.
be taking care of him.
It.
Bernard, do I have any girlfriends? Not that I know of. Like, just man's like, I don't know.
I was like, Harry, read the room. Like, let him take a nap.
I know, yeah, just brutal. And then, yeah, okay, so like, yeah, we have that scene because like Peter's like, I need help. I know I lobbed a grenade into your eyes, but
killed your dad and blew up half your face. But
I know we still haven't actually apologized for killing your father, and on top of it, I exploded you. Could you help me get my girlfriend back?
Yeah, like it's and the scene of him being like, the blade that I cleaned is from his glider, all this other stuff. It's like one of those things of like, I'm like, okay, we have to get to Harry and Peter teaming up, but I don't really think we're there.
We're
like,
not really there.
That scene
And
doesn't
it's
really
again,
work.
it's like we have this like missed opportunity of like you have to start by like forgiving yourself. Like it's just these again, it's like this underdeveloped like thing that just permeates throughout the entire movie of like
a part that really does get me really jazzed is I can't believe I just said gets me really jazzed.
Choice words.
Thank you. Is when Spider-Man comes back in the red and blue and you get the shot of the whole crowd turning to look to see him.
And then also like at that point the Danny Elfman theme comes back. The bongos start again and it's like, oh, we're back.
We're back.
And
then we kind of stop being back.
We'll trip a little bit.
But that's a good moment.
But
it's
a good transition because again, like in the credits alone, like the Christopher Young score like hijacks the opening. Like it's like it interrupts it even. So like to do we haven't heard the Spider-Man theme, but now that he's like back, it's like it's just a good that's one of the stronger choices of the movie.
I do think it's funny that when Venom and Peter are fighting, that Venom is like very dramatically saying like, do you remember what you did to me? And it's like, dude, it was like 3 days ago. Of course I did.
If that might have been this morning.
Like it literally just happened.
I don't know how long that montage was, like
yeah, like it's like I'm pretty sure that was not too long
I know,
ago.
But he says it like, remember when you did that to me?
As if he's like 10 years ago.
It feels like they're having the relationship of like Sean Bean in GoldenEye, where he's like, remember when we were agents a year ago and I died?
Yeah, it's
like
I'm like, yeah,
I
think
remember
we're all
we were
pretty
brothers, and
up.
it's like we're not really.
This is the thing, like the I feel like he then like Topher kind of just has to go to playing like scorned villain.
Yeah,
and not saying that element isn't prevalent in Eddie's arc at this moment in time.
Yeah,
but it's just not as interesting. I
it's
like
not.
him being kind of just like an asshole that's like running around and causing havoc. Are you gonna say something?
No, I was gonna kind of jump to another thing. So if you had any more thoughts,
I have in my notes, Sandman monster is cool. Peter being dragged on the sand is also cool.
Yeah,
I like that moment.
I also like the it's again it's a little over the top and cheesy in the way that the movie is, but more tonally closer. But
sure.
like he's just hammering him, and the like newscaster is like,
it's hard.
It's hard. Yeah, what is it?
It's hard to imagine what's happening, and then there's a long beat, and she goes, the brutality of it.
but like that part is like really funny, but then like the way it's wailing on him, and then he reaches out to MJ, who is
I do love all that. It's very
like,
dramatic. It's very
and again,
fun.
I think this is my least favorite of the battle damage, especially like when the way the mask is like. There's something about the way they have like a part of the eye.
I had the
still
same
sticking
thought.
around, where it's like, dear God, just take it off.
The mask damage looks bad. It looks
the mask damage is the
work.
worst, and it's like look, if you're gonna do a version of the first one again, just honestly just do it again. It looks so good.
It's
love so perfect.
For as much, and we've covered as much as the Harry stuff, just kind of very consistently does not work for me in this movie.
Yeah,
it is nice to see him come up and team with his friend.
It is. And I was gonna say it's like the first time you get like a team up
Yeah,
I don't think any superhero movie has done like a proper team up. Like if we have, it's like already an established like dynamic.
It's a
But this
group,
is like
yeah.
a first like no, like if one of us doesn't die, we could keep solving crimes together. You know?
I love all that. I love the fire from the board turning the Sandman's arm into glass.
Great.
That's a
The
really
physics of
cool
it's really fun.
idea. It's a
I
lot of
do. I
fun.
also when the bomb goes into his ear and it's like and he's like, oh,
Love that. I love the
Ruby
bit
Roo.
with Jameson showing up and going to the little girl. The film's extra line is cute and I like it.
Yeah.
Jameson getting one upped.
Yeah. I think I read. I could be wrong. People can correct me in the comments if they want, but I'm pretty sure it's Sam Raimi's daughter,
That's awesome.
which is like a fun little cameo. for
Whoever
this,
that
but,
kid is, she nails
But
that
yeah,
scene.
whoever she is, amazing.
I think I kind of like, I guess I maybe echoed this a little earlier. I think my biggest problem with the final fight is that there's just like no real new personal stakes. It's just like Peter has to save MJ again.
Yeah, it's just kind of the stakes of the old one, but it's like we're not getting the added benefit of like there's no big reveal, I guess, in this. Like it's like, you know, in the first one there's the reveal that like he's fighting Norman
Yeah.
and you have that like quick moment.
And in
And
two,
then
he
in
like,
two, there's the you know, he realizes Ock realizes he's fighting Peter, and
Sure.
then there's like that double take of like, oh my god, what am I doing? And it's like you don't have those emotional beats in
I'm
this
just-
scene because like again, it's like well, he murdered my uncle, but like we have had no conversation.
this whole sequence feels like,
We don't actually know each other.
it feels like an action scene. I mean, because kind of, I think it is. It's an action scene that is here because the movie's about to be over.
Basically,
We needed to do a big action sequence. And there are things in it that are cool. I think it's hilarious that Harry just continues to get thrown the fuck around the room.
Yeah, he kinda
He
does.
like takes another headshot
he
again.
takes another headshot
I
and
was
does
like-
not get amnesia this time. So
No,
he
that
must have
time
gotten
he's fine.
stronger.
Something. But he literally gets thrown around the whole movie. We get, the whole moment where he realizes that sound is the weakness. Again, a moment that probably would have been
Better established earlier.
if we hadn't seen it 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. The flashback, it is a pretty funny flashback to be like, I don't know if this was like 10 minutes ago, but
Yeah, it's like,
in
I
case
know.
you forgot.
We're watching the same movie. I
Yeah.
understand. I think it's funny that Peter reaches for the bar before just using his webs.
Yeah. It's like he's so good at it, like instinctively doing that. And he's just reaching.
Yeah, it's not something I wouldn't point out if he's so normally he's physicalized, like he's so quick.
Yeah.
That he just kind of like Luke Skywalker's like looks to the thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
you've been using webs the last 3 movies.
And it's also funny that when he finally does web it, he just rips the other arm free anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Just so he could get 2 hands on that baseball swing.
And he creates the little kind of like sound
Like
prison, I suppose.
yeah. Which I think is actually really cool.
It's a cool idea.
I think it's a cool moment. The CGI is a little.
His face
subpar,
replacement is
yeah.
pretty rough. I like the full Venom monster.
Yeah.
I think that's fun. I think it's hilarious that Eddie Brock dies harder than any individual has died ever.
Yeah, and to date, I think in most superhero movies, this is a pretty
He is incinerated.
incinerated, like bones and all.
Yeah, you see his skeleton. He dies like the businessman in the first movie. He is
Literally, just
no
vaporized. We should also mention Harry gets stabbed.
Harry does
saving
get
Peter.
stabbed. Yeah, this we might cut this out, but I do have a note that says, "Do you think Bernard just got insanely wealthy after Harry died?"
I think he got a nice severance package. I don't think he did.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
That would be funny if he did, though.
Like it's like he's kind of the only one that, you know, and he deserves it.
He really does.
Bernard deserves
He
it.
should retire.
But yeah, Harry is killed,
Harry's killed.
which is it doesn't not work.
You know, it doesn't not work because again, it's like the arc of like I've been trying to kill you, and now I'm sacrificing myself for you. It's another underdeveloped thing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
And then once that kind of stuff happens, we very quickly wrap the movie.
I
up.
know, and we don't even get like a cool web slinging thing. It just goes back to Peter and MJ. They're looking at each other.
We get the brief moment where
It's
Sandman
the most. Oh yeah,
and
that's
him
I'm
are,
jumping
I
ahead a little
forgive
bit,
you.
but
Harry
yeah.
gives his little like, I'm fine, I'm with my friends. But I do want to get to that final scene because Raimi did not want to stop making these.
Yeah.
He wanted to keep doing more. There are plenty of storyboards. They had a release date for Spider-Man 4. I ultimately I like this ending. I like that it's kind
Weirdly,
of a bummer.
It is
And that it's like, where do we go from here?
exactly.
Can we go from here?
It's almost like they were like, should we do one more?
They most
No, they
certainly
were
said
like
we are doing
they were
one
balls
more.
deep. Let's do one more at this point, but
They were ready to do it, and I do think it's interesting. I just like how like intimate it is. I think not in
it
like a
is.
relationship sense,
I
but
think
just like
well,
personal.
I think it just goes back to I think what was the strongest thing about these, and I think where they dropped the ball in this movie the most is that like the emotional core of Peter and MJ's relationship is like the thing that sort of guides these movies. And in this one,
It's really
it's
forced.
really fighting like the choices they make are forced, and then on top of it, it's got to fight all these other elements to be seen. So it's almost like this is tacked on to sort of remind us of that like emotional center.
Yeah,
But it's like but it's also that thing of like, I don't know. I feel like after the events of this movie, I don't know that I buy them coming back together,
yeah.
even though that's what I want.
I think No Way Home, and this is maybe we bridge into kind of the final portion of
Yeah.
covering this series of where how do they go from here? Should they have gone and done more? No Way Home, I think, gets away with being like me and MJ are okay because it has been like 20 years almost.
Yeah.
But I I go I was going back and forth, I think, when deciding for myself, obviously, we're just two guys talking in a room. Like we very well could get a Spider-Man 4 for Tobey's series.
Yeah.
And there is certainly the word that we've kind of brought up in the last two episodes. There is certainly narrative runway for after Spider-Man 3
Yeah.
to do another one. At this point, I don't think we should.
I
To
don't
be
think
honest.
we should. I think at this point, like too much time is passing, and I think with the way Marvel's set up to try and do like Doomsday and Secret
Sure.
Wars and all that, and like maybe Tobey will come back, maybe he won't. I just don't think there's going to be room to do this because I'm like, I think when No Way Home came out, I'm like, if I was like, I'm on board to go back and do like a Logan style, like one more to just check in on everyone because
Yeah.
like we've said, there's all this stuff that's been like set up. There's like, you could do Agent Venom, you could do a lot of things. I personally would have really liked to seen like a oh, it's been 20 years and actually we're in couples therapy
Yeah.
and we're making it work, but we're people and we want to make this work. And I think it would be really funny if like that would have been like the movie of them like yeah, our marriage is it's got its problems, but we go to therapy and that's like part of the movie is like them like trying to fight
Working
for
it
each other
out.
and working it out like but
I also think a big thing, I think what ultimately like kind of has solidified it for me personally that like I think we need to let this be, yeah, maybe Toby shows up in Doomsday or whatever, but
yeah.
like I think the cast of Friends always talked about there was always questions like with this or with any kind of successful thing of are you going to come back, are you going to do a revival of the series or whatever. And I think it was Lisa Kudrow that was like, and this is prior to the Matthew Perry's passing, but it was that thing of like when you wrap things up, like when a story ends, in order to start a story again, you have to create more conflict, which means you just have to muck up a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And I also think specifically this is what solidified it is I think the expectation for a Spider-Man 4 is almost mythological at this point.
That is fair.
And I think no matter what, especially with the tone of the internet at times, I think to just let these movies be the three that they are,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe Toby shows up to, give a thumbs up and swing around for a little bit with Captain America, you just leave it at that. I think there is no version of it's like Star Wars, which, maybe we'll get into in another, future series or something. There is no Spider-Man 4 that lives up to the expectations of the people that are fans of Spider-Man's 1, 2, 3.
That's fair.
I that's kind of my thing is that I'm like, even if we got one more, even if it was great, there are going to be plenty of people that have problems with it. We're going to be blah 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 blah. And I think some series it is worth it to revisit and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I mean, you said talk about Logan. Like Logan is a really great way to
Yeah.
look at a character that has aged. I just think I'm not even against doing a Spider-Man who is older. I just think the cultural expectation for a Spider-Man 4 at this point has grown too great.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I feel.
So you're no.
I
We
think
don't need any more Raimi Spider-Man movies.
I'm happy to see Tobey pop in every now and again. I think a Tobey Maguire led Spider-Man 4. I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea at this either. I kind of want one.
Yeah,
I agree with all the points you're making of like, the expectations are just too high. And like, honestly, like, I think it's just that thing of like with the way fans can be and like Reddit and all that. It's just like,
we're just opening a can of worms.
it's a can of worms. And like, I know Raimi got a lot of grief for his Doctor Strange, which
Sure.
is, I think, debated. You and I are on the side of, we kind of think that one
I like
rules.
that movie. I think it's pretty good.
I do think it has its problems. I do want to say that, but like,
I think Raimi elevates that.
I
don't
think
think the
Raimi
movie's
does
terrible, but I
more
think he
than it
elevates
could have been, you know,
Yeah.
especially like with the way that whole phase ended up playing out. I
Sure.
think he like makes the most out of that. But yeah, I'm gonna say no on this
Yeah.
one. I think yeah, like after this, I think it's kind of a shame we didn't see 4.
Sure.
But I also like did a deep dive trying to figure out the plot for 4, and it's honestly, I think it's kind of good that we didn't, because like all the proposed ideas sound terrible.
Yeah, I like
I like the casting ideas.
Malkovich and Hathaway.
and Hathaway's Black Cat.
Yeah.
That's pretty great. But I guess one of the big things they were trying to do with that one is they were basically trying to be done with MJ, which I think doesn't really work with again, everything we've been talking about their emotional and their relationship.
Sure.
It's just like it's just like, no, they're supposed to be together. So like if you introduce Black Cat at this point, it's just like it just kind of bites the whole thing in the ass, I think.
Sure, I get that. Yeah. I think
but
yeah.
that being said, like Anne Hathaway would have crushed it as
She would have been
Black Cat.
great.
We've
Well,
seen her Catwoman, you know.
Yeah, she's a great
in The
Catwoman.
Dark Knight Rises. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So
I think I think at the time, I think you certainly have an ability to do it. And also it's that thing of like Andrew Garfield, again, we could maybe talk about his movies for another time. He's a great Spider-Man. It led us to getting Tom, and it led us to getting No Way Home, which is a movie that maybe has its problems, but you know, I think we said in the first episode, like, it kind of gives you that lesson of like, there's room for all of them. And
yeah,
you know, there is no, like, no one of them is better than the other, I think, at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, this series is, again, iconic. I think it certainly sets the standard. I think Spider-Man 3, despite being the weakest of the 3, it's still like, yeah, like I'm never opposed to watching it. Despite all, I feel like I spent this whole episode being like, this movie doesn't work. It's bad. It doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, again, it's like we said, it's like, it's weird that it's got all this stuff to do, but it's still really entertaining.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that I love.
Despite its faults. Like, it's just like, I think there's an argument to be made that 1 and 2 are the like greatest superhero movies like ever made. Like they're in the top 10.
Certainly.
They're in most people's top 10s. And then this is the follow-up.
Yeah.
And objectively the last one. Like,
yeah.
So it's just, I think it's just so disappointing.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day.
I get that. But I do think, again, No Way Home did a lot of good stuff, and I think satisfying the desire for 4, but now that, again, can of worms is open. Everybody wants to see Spider-Man.
It's a can of worms. Everyone like has their ideas of what it should be and what it has to be. And it's just like, I feel like I think there's room for Raimi to do a really great 4th one, but the audience expectation just won't let that be successful, unfortunately.
I also think with Doctor Strange coming back, everybody was like, you know, what superhero movie is Raimi going to do next? Frankly, I just want to see Raimi do whatever the hell he wants to do. I don't need to see him do Spider-Man 4, 5, and 6, you know, despite thinking that, yeah, he'll probably do a good job. Like, if he does Doctor Strange 3, he'll probably do a good job. But I just want to see Raimi. I'm glad he's back.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the best filmmakers. He's so much fun. And, like, again, like I said, like, I want to see him do a musical. Like, honestly,
yeah, he'd
like,
be great.
Especially with, like, Wicked doing really well this last year. Like,
sure.
It would be nice to see if that's going to be a genre that comes back. I would really like to see him get to do one, because I feel like he's got the playfulness to do it.
And we're definitely two people who are in support of more musicals.
Yes.
I'm very hopeful
more
for that.
musicals.
Any
please.
Final thoughts before we wrap this up?
We talked last time about how they were going to do a young, hotter Doc Ock. Yes. I had an idea that popped in my head of who I think would have got that had they gone with that plan.
Okay.
This is going to be controversial, so feel free to scream at me in the comments.
Okay.
James Franco, Freaks and Geeks, another rising star from that show who has some heat, and I think they would sex him up. Seth Rogen. I think they would
Oh
go
my
hit him,
God.
but like in the way that like it's like when you see them like someone suddenly in a rom com and they're like, why didn't he lost weight? He's like he's got a chin. What's going on? Like I feel like
Yeah.
they would have like Hollywoodized him like really badly.
Hey,
And I'm not saying I want this, but at the same time I do kind of want it.
I'll say it. I want it.
But
I
a
like
love
Seth Rogen so
triangle,
much.
a love triangle that is Peter and like Tobey Maguire and Seth Rogen.
I also just popped in my head. I don't think we said it last week. Maybe we did. Maybe this is where I'm getting it. But he wasn't maybe their exact age, but like Joaquin Phoenix
Joaquin Phoenix is
as a
actually probably
young Doc
better,
Ock would have been
he's probably
cool.
got the sauce for that.
I think that like Signs era, right, is right
Yeah.
around that time. Yeah. I
Do you think Gyllenhaal would have done it since he had been in talks for like Spider-Man? He's like, oh well, what if we do this as like Doc Ock? Like this is our template instead.
I think him as a performer, I think he maybe would have been drawn to that character. But I think if they're getting Tobey back, I think they're like, we need to make sure that he does not
I know.
look the same.
But that was it. I mean, if there's any other characters you think you do casting of?
That's a good question. I mean, honestly, Malkovich is the Vulture, is kind of the guy that's always, and Campbell is Mysterio, which was supposed to
I don't
be
know
the
how
cameo
like the
in 4.
minutia of him being that actually would have played out. I love that idea, but I'm
Yeah.
also like I think the amount like it's also more fun to have him just be 3 separate guys.
I
You know,
agree.
but also like him being Mysterio would have been a nice like way to tie those all together. But
I feel that, but
um,
honestly, yeah, I that was the one that's Malkovich as Vulture is such a fun casting. Keaton's great, and maybe we'll get to that another time. You know, we don't have to get into that right now, but
yeah,
that's the
it's
one
a different series.
different series. You're right. But yeah, he's the one that I'm like, man, we almost had that. That would have been really, 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 really cool.
Yeah,
But yeah, Spider-Man 3,
Spider-Man 3,
mixed bag, but really fun.
Yeah, entertaining, but definitely the weakest of the first 3.
It's hip. It's now. Frankly, it's wow.
It's many wow.
And I dare to ask you the question, Dave, and how?
How
And how?
and how.
I came up with that.
All right. Well,
Did we wrap it up there?
I think we'll wrap
Does
it
that
up
feel
there.
good?
Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there.
All right. Good stuff, man.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. I'm going to go rewatch Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, and at the end of this, we'll just go watch 2 again.
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
Thank you for listening to We Need One More.
Be sure to follow us on socials like TikTok and Instagram at WNOM Podcast to stay up to date on upcoming episodes.
And feel free to join our Discord community where you can share your thoughts on the movies we're watching together. That's going to be at WNOM Podcast server with a link in the bio.
Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. That's the best way to support the show and to let us know that you need one more.
We'll see you next week. This podcast is produced by Pilot 9 and 9 Ball Creative.